Hello, hello. Welcome to the Mother Daze podcast. I'm Teresa Palmer.
And I'm Sarah Wright Olsen. Hi, Daisies.
Hi.
Welcome to the show. We are so pumped. We have this amazing guest here today, and we've just been sitting here chatting it up for a little bit because she's so cool and awesome and beautiful and wonderful. Mother of two, writer, director, filmmaker, award winner, children's book author. Also loves Claire Vivier just like me. Lake Bell.
Hey. Thanks for the intro.
Yeah.
I'm blushing.
Isn't that awkward when someone intros you in and they're saying all these things and you just have like, yeah.
It's, you know really? What? I'm like, just love it. Just go for it. Like,
just love it.
But you're like, no.
I know you want to. That's your instinct to be like, oh, it's not even really that bit of a.
So long ago, the awards. I don't know. You know.
Whatever. I'm gonna own that shit.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Own that award, girlfriend.
It's lovely to hang out with you guys because I do feel like this is just a cool hang with two beautiful, very smart, pregnant ladies.
Thank you.
And I feel your pain because I know where you are.
Yes, fun.
Yes, you do.
Although I'm second trimester, she's third trimester. So she's feeling, I'm kind of like, woo, got my energy, party, let's go.
Yeah, I'm feeling it in my pubic bone and in my booty, you know.
The waddle.
See it, feeling it all.
For me, it was as slow as.
Oh, where is that even?
Can I ask you about your baby names for a second? I'm obsessed.
Yes.
I'm obsessed.
Yes. So
Nova is the coolest name. And then your son, you use the nickname Ozzy.
Yes.
I'm dying. Where did you get these names from? Tell me everything. Ozzy.
I mean, his full name is Osgood, which my mom actually came up with. I think it's an old English or American name. And, it was a name that I had in my back pocket for my first baby, but then she ended up being a girl. And it was Scott, my ex-husband, who is like my comrade in family and life, even though we are divorced, but we're just kind of like, I usually say we're a two-house family instead of saying you're divorced because it's so smart. And like, oh, we're a two-house family. I found that is rolling off my tongue quite a bit. But yeah, I remember he was in a bathtub in Croatia. As you do.
Cool.
As you do. When he was like, because we were going to name her Opal. And then he was in that bathtub and he was like, Blake, I got it. It's like, it's Nova so cool. in there.
It is Nova.
And it was Nova. So she came out and I was like, oh yeah, that's Nova. It is funny that, isn't it? It's like, you just kind of have this idea of a name and then it's so conceptual until you see this human and you're like, okay, so I'm going to pull the trigger on this. And your name's going to be for the rest of your life. Because I have an unusual name and it really has shapes. I don't know. I feel like it's shaped who I am for sure.
You stand out. I think I heard your name so many years ago as you were sort of coming up in the industry. And I was like, oh my God, no one has a better name. That is the best name. And then my daughter is Poet Lake. So I have Lake as the middle name. I'm obsessed. And then, so I was like, who's Lake Bell? And then I looked at your work and I was like, oh my God, I want to be friends with her. She's so funny and so cool. And you just like what you radiate on screen makes people fall in love with you. Like, want to be your best friend, and I'm sure everyone also wants to date you because you are so gorgeous.
I want to date you and be your best friend.
Can we do both?
That's my favorite day.
Oh my God! Yeah.
I mean, I'm single, so the day.
Great. Yeah. Put the word out there.
I mean, you're both pregnant. More of this, like you're taken, clearly.
Oh right. Oh yeah. No, I'm taken. That's right.
Pregnant women are like, I mean, I always felt like when I was pregnant, I just felt so like gorge in a lot of ways.
We love it.
With so much love. And then, the second that baby comes, they're just like, move over, open your own door.
Like, give me the baby. You're just in the way for the baby. Everyone just wants the baby. They're like, get that person out of the way. I want the baby.
I do that too now. I'm such a jerk because like even walking down the street, I'm in Brooklyn and like, my daughter like, oh, look, it's so cute. And then it's like, I don't even see the mom. Like, who is that? But, the second I am so baby crazy, my daughter is just like, oh my God, mom, because I just want to, I'll be on the airplane and be like, do you need me to hold your kid? I will.
Oh,
hold,
yeah.
You want me to hold that
You're
baby
that person.
for you? Yeah.
Yes. The answer is yes. I was like, please hold my baby. I need a minute to myself.
I will hold your baby.
Okay, good. I just have to fly with you from now on. Done.
Yeah. That would make me sweat. I'd be like, oh yeah, you can hold my baby. And then I would feel guilty the whole time. Like, do you want me to take him back? Or is it too much? Like, is this like, are you okay? Are you comfortable? Did you really want to hold them?
Well, sometimes I just, like, I have really been, I've leant over and been like, look, I'm a mom. I get it. I'm traveling solo. You want me to hold that baby for you?
That's the best.
Oh my God. It's so
that's a
good.
Dream. That's a dream.
Well, you do so many things in your life. Yeah, you're a hyphen. You got lots of different things.
A lot of hyphens.
And we want to talk to you today a lot about your book, All About Brains.
All About Brains.
And I want to know what inspired you to write this book. It's so beautiful. It's so whimsical. And I know that your daughter Nova's journey helped inspire you to write this. And I just want you to tell us about this. Where did this come from?
Yeah, I'll give her a lot of credit. I think Nova, is the one of the sole, inspirations for this book. I think, she certainly was the jumping off point because my daughter Nova has epilepsy, and she has generalized epilepsy, which hers shows up from a genetic mutation, so it doesn't kind of go away. She's currently seizure free, knock wood, which is awesome, and just feels like a profound blessing. Mainly because I think it was like she needed a break, and usually you don't really get a break. I think in general, her journey and our family's journey in learning about epilepsy, learning about neurological differences from every angle, because she is blessed with other ones as well. So she has this amazing sort of cocktail of differences. And I mean, I'm dyslexic and grew up with dyslexia. Like the word dyslexia is so hard for dyslexics to say.
Hard. I know. It's not nice. It's not nice. Pick another word.
And so I feel like, really in looking at the struggles that she had with the discomfort, there was some shame in there. There was some there was like fear, just so much associated with a little person having, even an adult, but having a seizure disorder. And it's interesting. It's like we become parents and we just don't know what the journey is going to be for each child, and certainly Scott and I, I think part of the profundity of our relationship is heavily, sort of sutured with having gone through the trenches together. So,
yeah.
But, Nova, I remember there was a time where she was so afraid of the seizures and so uncomfortable in them because they were happening 11 to 16 seizures a day, and that would be big ones and small ones. So that would be big grand mals, which are the big, that's like varsity, and then you have kind of the more JV seizures, which were myoclonics, which are more like stutter seizures. And you kind of knew that a big one was coming if you got a cluster of little ones. So her anxiety wholly comes from this, feeling of, gosh, is one coming,
It's coming.
Yeah, it's coming. Oh, that's just a tall order to ask of anyone, let alone a child who's just forming their thoughts and how they kind of are moving through the world, and it's like, okay, we're going to tax you with this zap, at some point today, maybe even 11 times today, So she, still residually kind of deals with her anxiety for sure. And, seeing her kind of go through the difficult, sticky, sweaty parts of it, it was an emotional journey too of us as a family to kind of reframe and sort of reshape the narrative of her seizure disorder. Like perhaps it's not, it's not the big bad wolf, it's like everybody's got stuff in their brains. Like everybody's unique. We just are. And I know that sounds cliche, but the truth is like, mommy's got dyslexia, mommy's got also an anxiety disorder, and I have to do things in order to self-regulate and to manage that. And everybody walking down the street, you might not be able to see it, but it's there, and there's different shades. And, now, especially even just reading this book to her, this book all about brains that I wrote for her and for children to have these peer-to-peer conversations, and for parents to have like a guiding, just something to kind of help facilitate the language, so that it doesn't feel like this big bad scary demon. It's like, these are real conditions that, whether it's ADHD and you've just realized even as an adult that you have ADHD, or you're a kid and everyone's like, oh, you have ADHD. It's like, instead of it having to be this kind of taboo thing, I think we're all realizing kind of social as a society, that everyone's got shades of something, or a lot of people do. Let's not say everybody, a lot of people do. And so
a lot of people,
if you allow for that to have some grace and some generosity and empathy for yourself and others, and starting those conversations really early, then it doesn't seem so odd and so other,
Yeah.
Do you remember like when we were growing up and there might be a kid in the school that had cancer or they were dealing with something medically? Your parents would be like, don't look at them, don't ask, don't do anything. It's rude. Like, that is the way we were raised. It's like, you can't talk about it. You can't just ignore that person's going through that thing. But children are curious beings, and children want to talk about it and ask questions. And I'm sure for Nova, having her friends understand and recognize and talk about it, and it's not this hidden away thing that no one's allowed to discuss or talk about. We'll just pretend it doesn't exist. I think that is so isolating. And I immediately go back to my school days. I remember the children, and we just were like, just do not look while the nebulizer's on, or do not look while they're getting treatment with, the carer who's in the classroom. Like, don't ask questions, just ignore. And that's the way it was. And I feel like society, thankfully, is changing and opening up those conversations and recognizing that everyone has stuff going on. And sometimes it's invisible and sometimes it's not. And that's okay.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that, there are adult friends that I have who came out of the woodwork when, Nova had her epilepsy, and I was just vocal about it. And they're like, I have epilepsy. And I was like, what? How did I not know that?
Right.
Like, well, I don't like to talk about it, and you're like, but why? And I found that epilepsy particularly just it's a good jumping off point for other neurodiversities, because I do think that there's something about those seizures that really make people nervous to talk about it. Like they think, I think they're scared, and then they're like, oh my God, are you going to have a seizure? And people with epilepsy are like, no, not necessarily. It's under control, or it's not. And, it's just, I think that, having Nova finally be in a place of of genuinely feeling like it's a superpower, because we reframed it as it having sparkles. It feels like you're high, you're having a high RPM moment, you're revving at a high RPM, or like our brains are so electrical. And when we know this like conceptually, but when you see a seizure is when you really, it really crystallizes, because it looks like a malfunction in the, it just looks like a like kind of an electrical malfunction that just, and so with that, I was like, oh, okay. So you're just sparkly today. You're just, you're just smarter than everyone else in this moment.
Did you come up with the sparkles, or did she come up with that language?
It was a joint effort, because basically we started to think about, like, if it's just a little electrical misfirings, that causes some, like a spark. I can envision some kind of kind of sparkly magic. And, so then it was led, we kind of then took it to, it's a magical, in the same way that, like, when you're pregnant and all of a sudden there's this electrical spark that allows for life to occur, right? So we're filled with all this electricity.
Yeah. Well, that's what it is. Yes, yeah, exactly. So
it's the same, it's in the same space as like the stars, So it felt like, her name is Nova. I mean, she's celestial, she's a supernova.
Oh, it's the first thing I thought of when I read that in the book. I was just like, when you got to the part about sparkles, and I was like, wow, what a name for your daughter. She's like out of this world, she's like, has this magical.
It's like she chose it from before.
I love the part in the book too, when you talk about the brains, if they were sitting on a couch, and then how all the brains would look the same. If you looked at them side by side, and then the way that we're all just so unbelievably different. Like, you can look at everybody, you can be like, oh, we all look, okay, we look, maybe there's some differences, but like we look similar. Like everybody looks like this, and then you see this side by side. That was such a great way to break it down.
Too, by that particular concept of all of these brains sitting on a couch, looking exactly the same. I remember speaking to neurologists at Children's Hospital, actually for my son, because he went through a scary start to life. And I remember speaking to just the most extraordinary group of people who have dedicated their lives to neurological science, right? And the one takeaway and the repeat was that, unlike other organs, where you can say X and Y and Z, like, this is this architectural shape of the heart. And here are the, veins and arteries that are going in. Here are the ones that are going out. And if this is clogged, then we got a problem. It's like it's straightforward. There are answers that are very clear. Whilst the brain, she complex. Yeah. She is very extra. So the thing about the brain they were saying is, you could take an MRI of, the most preeminent MIT scholar, and then someone with cerebral palsy, and you might see a difference. However, not necessarily. You might see exactly the same thing. And I was like, come on. Yeah. They're like, no. It's confounding sometimes when the things that you think are markers that you're going to see in evidence are just, it's amorphous. There's a constant surprise. And so there's magic there. This is the one mission control epicenter of total magic.
Wow. It is so fascinating, isn't it? Oh my gosh. I just love that. And how was that for you, knowing that you have this thing that's a personal journey between your family and putting it on the public stage? Were there any moments of wobbles, or were you like, this has to be done?
I think, seeing Nova's kind of bravery and ownership and her identity as somebody with epilepsy, I just saw an opportunity to be generous with, her. If she wasn't comfortable with it, I wouldn't do it, but because she was such a young advocate an educator about it with her class and with her peers. That's where the story really came from, where she really kind of found the language and the way in to make it very understandable for not just her peers, but also adults too. And in trying to explain it to even like relatives, who kind of didn't understand what exactly her epilepsy was all about.
Is that moment in the book then is based on something that really happened where she like went to school oh, cool.
Yeah, it was in COVID, we were all doing Zoom school.
Yes.
And she had Share, and the Epilepsy Foundation have these little to incentivize kids to, advocate for themselves. They have these little buttons that you can sort of earn, and they're pins, and kids love merch. You know what I'm saying?
Love it.
Yeah,
love
merch. So I remember it was Share Day, and you're allowed to share an experience or a thing. It could be like, I found this rock in the shape of a heart, or it could be, my grandma's in town, or whatever. Or there's a global pandemic,
That too. Yeah.
My mom's going crazy. Oh, never mind. Yeah.
I said to Nova, I was like, do you want to earn a pin? Do you want to get an Epilepsy Foundation pin? And she was like, oh. And so she goes, okay. I was like, you can share your emblem, And so she bravely, it was her turn up, and someone had shared a rock or whatever, a dinosaur. And she was like, I have a share, and my share is that I have something called epilepsy. And of course, the teacher read the room and let her speak, and let the other kids ask, what's epilepsy?
Yeah.
And she says, oh, that just means that I have seizures. And of course, that led to another friend saying, what's seizures?
Yeah.
What are seizures? And then this is where the book starts, which is like this incredible peer-to-peer, earnest, authentic conversation in her own words of what it is. And then because Nova does have these other conditions, some that appear in the book, it is an extension of how we speak about it. And her best friend has autism. So it was kind of like her now best friend. So it was like this tapestry of beautiful neurodiversities that show up in difficult ways, but also super human ways.
Yes.
And that there's this sense of ownership and identity in being comfortable with saying sometimes things are scary or difficult. And that's okay, and then also this is where, here are these amazing people who have thrived because of this neurodiversity, which is just true, So it felt like this is the kind of book too, that it's not like we read it, then we discuss. It's very much a read a little, oh, I got a question. I got another question. I want to talk about this. It's like, the kids want to get right in there. Hang on. Whoa, time out. So,
yes.
So that's what I found when I was reading. I was like, oh, it was more, when I read it to a classroom, it was like an hour, because we had to really stop and talk about things. And
I loved the part too when she goes to take her medicine in the morning. Like her medicine was with the juice and at the breakfast table. But as soon as I read that part about, okay, why don't you go ahead and take your medicine and then we'll, figure this next part out. And I was like, oh, great. I love that you're talking about that, because I think a lot of times medication can feel overwhelming as well. Right. And it's also other kids are why are you taking that? Or, what is that? And it's confusing. Or you have a sibling who's is that a gummy supplement? And you're like, no, that's not. But I loved that. And I love that you incorporated that into the book, that it wasn't
another secret thing that we can't talk about. Yeah. Yeah. The medication was important to put in there because, Scott and I both, we're very is this broccoli organic? We are both very conscientious and, now we're loose, so we got older kids, we're a little looser now. But
yes.
I think especially when they were younger, and
we all start that way.
No, like,
only organic, no plastics.
Lucky Charms only on Tuesdays, Yeah. I literally just had a Lucky Charm argument recently.
Delicious.
Yeah, they're great. So the medications were so essential, to her healing, to her being able to rewire a bit and to train the brain to kind of not have seizures, versus like getting the brain more and more comfortable with like, this is how we function. It's another part of this, we're all trying to do our best and, give our children the healthiest, most nutrient-rich foods and all that shit, But then also, if your kid is suffering from seizures, you're going to have to try a myriad of different medications. And that almost sucks more than the seizures. And that goes for a multitude of different neurological differences that might need medication in order to manage the symptoms, which might be unacceptable. So, grand mal seizures multiple times a day is an unacceptable reality. And if we can, help her in that, then we're going to, medicate. And so that's where we got to. And we had amazing success with CBD, medicinal CBD, that actually got the grand mal seizures in check, but not the myoclonics. So then it was like, we had to find something. And honestly, community is so essential for, if you do find yourself in one of these situations and you're like, gosh, I don't know anyone in my community who has a kid with one of these, neurological differences. I don't know what to do. Then you start to like reach out, and that's what the Epilepsy Foundation was great for. Then you start to realize, oh, there's other people in my actual industry who have kids who have this and that.
Wow.
Everyone starts to talk to each other and help each other. And, oh, did you try this med? I hadn't tried that one. Where do we have to go somewhere? It's like you just start to share information. And look, I think ultimately a book like this and this kind of conversation, it can be for neurotypical families as well as neurodivergent, because then you have some compassion, and some understanding and grace when it comes to, maybe there's a couple kids in your class and maybe some parents who are dealing with children with these differences, and you go, oh, okay, now I get it. Thank you. That's helpful, actually. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know a classroom without.
Yeah,
like I just don't anymore. And that's the beautiful thing about the conversation being opened up. As you were talking, I just kept thinking about what a good mum you are, and everything that you have been through and what you have done and how you advocate for her and how you now have like written this story to share with the world. And it's so liberating for her. I was like, what a good mum.
Thank you.
And I wanted to ask you, you are so strong and you have all this information. And I'm sure there were times where you were in real warrior mode. Like, all right, we'll just get this. I'm going to do this for her. I'm going to get all the information and I'm going to do all the things I need to do. What were those in between moments? Were there moments where you were just like, everything sucks? This is so...
I like lost it a lot. I mean, I am medicated. I am on lots myself, and I speak highly of SSRIs for that reason. I was not before, things with my children. It was really interesting. There was a moment where Nova was having grand mal seizures, which is when she kind of, it's like lights out, right? Like you're not there. And then I could scream and go, call someone, I know, and really like let my body and my brain get all riled up. And that was in the beginning. And then you learn about seizures and you realize they're not actually hurting her. They just, it looks scary, sure. But it's not like every single second that is going by, she is getting, attacked. It's not that. Then you're like, oh, okay. I don't need to scream. We are okay. Yeah. In fact, you don't even have to call the ambulance, which is like an even scarier moment, right? Where you're like, initially you're just thinking, I got to call the ambulance. I need emergency services here because this looks like an emergency situation. However, then you learn about it and you're like, it's just about where she is when she falls. Right. And otherwise the seizure itself is not a problem. So then, you get more thoughtful about that. And I've had superhero moments where I'm like, I do not know how I got from this point A to point B to catch her head before it fell on that boulder. I don't know.
Yeah.
And yet it was like, whoosh, like I flew, I remember.
Yes.
I remember being
wow, you have full goosebumps.
Yeah. Cause her thing, one of her things was like sparkling water. So like, you're looking at, oh, so beautiful how the sun is sparkling on the, oh God, that sparkle would be a problem. So it was this weird thing of everyone being like, oh, it's so pretty. And I'm like, I'm losing my mind.
Yeah. Like, get away from the water.
How old was she when that first started?
Her first seizure was a febrile seizure, a fever seizure.
Yes,
good for moms to know about that, which is like, they grow out of those, right? She was like 1.5. And then her first seizure without a fever was like 5.
Okay.
So 5 to 6 was like the real.
That was the big one.
Bad zone.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, I think the second she told me, Novus, I said, actually asked her, I said, can you hear anything when you're under the seizure, And she was like, sometimes. And I was like, oh, really? Did you hear me? I was just curious. Did you hear me last time? Screaming. Like, did you hear that part? And she was like, that one I didn't. She was like, once I heard you. And I was like, oh, Ron.
Oh, boy.
So then the next time she had a seizure, it was such a good training for me because I was like, as an actor, I am going to be so cool and calm and collected.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Began to seize. And I took deep breath and I was like, I'm right here. I'm just going to hold you right now. I'm just with you. You're doing
so
great.
Hard,
though. You're doing great. Wow. It's almost done. I'm like, I'm right here. And whilst she's, and it was so much better in my limbic system for me to just be there. And I was like, almost done, babe. You're just feeling real sparkly right now, And then we got through and I was like, oh, that's the way we get through this.
Yeah.
Adopt that.
That's the way. Yeah. Oh, wow.
I give a lot of credit to my ex-husband, Scott, too, because he was such a great researcher in the meds. Like his thing was like, how do I crack this code?
Yes.
So I feel like I was the emotional sergeant and he was like the logistics. And he's good at that stuff. So he was just like, it was a great team effort to kind of figure it out. And, we're embarking on, puberty and stuff like that. So I'm trying to think of, okay, that does change the pH of the brain and I'm knocking wood and I'm like, we're here, we're currently seizure free and that's great. And we'll see how the new chemistry works,
And it's amazing how that, when you're in a partnership like that, where one person can really tackle one side of it and the other person can tackle the other side of it. I wouldn't be able to be a medicine researcher. I just would, I couldn't do it, but I can handle other stuff, so that's just amazing. And
I mean, let's be honest. As women, we can do anything. Like you could do it.
True.
True. I just want to give you credit because the truth is, like, when the shit hits the fan with stuff like that, you're like, and if it was just you would figure it out. And to anyone who's listening, it's like, you're going to figure it out. It might suck and it might be confusing, but we can do it. you know?
Well, thankfully, also you talked about community, and I'm sure like being able to tap into, you know, Teresa loves a Reddit thread, or like, you know, any forum or anything, you know, where you find other people who are going through something similar. We talked about that with so many different things, with postpartum, depression, anxiety, like, you know, stuff like that too.
I'm a part of a Facebook group at that because I get antibodies. I test positive for antibodies in pregnancy. And without that group, I would not have known what to ask my doctor when the baby gets brain scans, what to look for, like, and that's amazing. Like, so not only you're in a community, it's like the online community as well has been
that's what I mean. I mean, it's really, it's like compare notes, share notes, you know, and I think there's no sort of like, you know, scarcity when it comes to that. It's like tell, you know, share with people what your findings are, especially with the brain, because the brain is like, you know, I don't know, this worked for me. I don't know if this will work for you. And yeah, it's been such a kind of fulfilling journey in so many ways, and it makes you super grateful for the moments that are silent, that are easygoing. You know, the fact that, you know, we're in a seizure-free moment. It's like I'm thankful every day. You know.
Oh, I bet you are. You're amazing. And I think, you know, you are the caretaker, you're taking care, and your ex-partner as well. Like, you guys are in this beautiful situation. I can relate to that kind of camaraderie and that relationship because we also co-parent, and I call her my baby mama. My husband's ex-girlfriend, Frankie Shaw, who's brilliant. She's one of my best friends, and anytime something comes up with Isaac, we're on a little thread, the four of us, or we get on a phone, we'll have family meetings.
We do family meetings too, yeah.
Yes. And they're so good. And it's also, I love that you're publicly putting it out there, like what it can look like, It doesn't, I mean, sometimes it is filled with animosity, but other times it can be partnership.
Yeah. I just want to say too, it's like, if you're kind of like, well, I'm a single parent and my fucking ex is an asshole. Like I understand, like I get it. I'm lucky that that's not the case here. I think that to be completely honest, it's like, it's not easy because we put a lot of work in. We went to therapy to break up. We went to therapy to redefine like our relationship. We went to therapy every 2 weeks for 2 years.
Wow.
Like
that
even
is
when you're
commitment.
like, no, there's nothing really this week. Like, do we have to, you know, we'd be like, no, like Scott would be like, I think we got to do it, you know, and then you just, any stone that might be some resentment under that rock, like we just did it because, you know, if you think about it and if you can get in the mindset of like, God damn it. And if your ex-partner is open, because that's the other problem is like, you need two willing participants. And so I get it.
That's right.
But if you can convince them to just like, not for me, just for the littles, like just for ease, because it's just for them. Like, is there anything that we're kind of, you know, feeling kind of messy and tight about? Because if it's charged, you know, it's like that residue gets all over the kids, and then they're just like sitting in that residue.
They can feel it. You're so right.
We went from the worst places with Frankie to where I was like, I'm never talking to her again. We're just never, there'll never be a relationship. That's it. The end. You know, that kind of vibe, to like my best friend. And now she's like putting me in her movies and we're writing things together. We're doing a production company. And I'm like, we have also been in the like, there's no future here. This is never
it's really easy. It's a lot easier in a way to be like, fuck this shit, you know? Like, it's like, okay, you know, and then it's like, oh God, that's just good for the kids though. Like if we're really, like, I get it. If you don't have kids and you both broke up or whatever, like get the hell out of there. But like if you have kids, I think it's worth it's actually easier in the end, you know, for the long haul to just kind of sweat it out, like, have some version of family meeting or some shit to just like.
I mean, so much good stuff comes from work. And it's like, my dad used to say this thing to me, which Eric said actually comes from a song. And I didn't realize that. I just thought my dad said this to me. But he always said, like, the hardest thing to do and the right thing to do are usually the same thing. It actually might even be from Batman. I don't know. I can't remember, but
it's from universal truth. But yeah.
Is that Michael Keaton? No, I don't know. But whatever. But it's so true. It's like so hard sometimes to, you're just like, it'd be so much easier just to be like, fuck it and walk away.
I know.
But like, you can't, because these little people look at you and they go, oh, is that how we handle that? And,
Yeah, our therapist used to say like that there's this Wi-Fi, going on in the household, right? And the household doesn't mean the literal house, just it means in the mom dad unit, in the family unit. And that Wi-Fi is like all over, right? It's like everywhere, and they're tuned into the Wi-Fi of whatever your network you're spewing out, So if it's just like fuck you, resentment, Wi-Fi, then they're just smelling that. It's
gonna
all over
feeling
them,
it. It's the energy.
But if you're like, we're trying, I love you, I see what I loved in you, because that's the truth is like, we do love each other. I mean, I remember Scott and I being like, I love you. Like, I still love you. Like, okay, bye. Like, it's okay to, like, what, am I not going to love you anymore? I don't know. That's weird. Like,
we don't have to put the archaic exact language on it either. It's like,
oh my gosh. I really hope this book is mandatory in schools.
Same.
I was like, can we get it in all the schools? Like everywhere, down under as well. We want it. It's like, we need a petition for that.
No, yes. Actually, I was going to say in my kids' classes, they talk about how they'll be like, oh, so-and-so has a helper. And I'm like, tell me about that, and then it's like my 4-year-old, she'll be like, the helper. So sometimes, they're having a hard time if they don't do A, B, C, or D. And then it's like the helper's there and helps facilitate something. And so then it's like each one of my kids have talked about that, and so it's like, why wouldn't that be mandatory? Like, it doesn't, like, whatever school, like wherever they're at, and so much of the things that we're learning about the brain have been happening in the last like 15 years. Like the brain is this unexplored territory that now we're just cracking the surface in certain areas and certain diagnoses and whatever it is. But like, this is something that we're talking about much, much more. And so why wouldn't a book like this this is necessity for us to be able to understand how to communicate, what do we say? And also how can our, children be a good friend and an advocate and, right. And so you can learn so much from that.
Like, what if you just don't even know where to begin? I don't know.
Exactly.
It's like, you're like, I'm a parent. I guess my kid has another kid in the class who has a helper. Okay.
Right.
I don't know what to answer to this, my 4-year-old, then you can say, okay, let's read this book. Oh, that's like so-and-so. They have headphones on when we listen to a movie. You're like, oh,
exactly.
Okay. So it seems that like it seems like this child, Elliot, he has autism. So he doesn't like the sounds too much. So he needs to adjust. And that's how he sort of manages his own brain differences, right? We all have those differences. And then other kids, I remember neurotypical kids were kind of like, when I would read the book, they were like, oh, I relate to that. I feel sometimes like I have buzzing in my belly, and it's not like I'm sitting here going, okay, we're diagnosing people, but the idea is like, it just doesn't seem, it doesn't seem so
It's
unusual.
like a spectrum.
It doesn't seem so different. Yes, exactly. It's
100%. And so can you tell everyone where we can find your book? We want to know down under, where can we find your book?
All the major, Barnes & Noble et al. Have the book right now, today, available.
Yay! So exciting.
Great. And the good news is I've gone on obviously a lot of like small local owned bookshops that also have it. But if you are looking to buy, you know, and get it sent to you, you could do just Barnes and Nobles. It would be easy.
If you want to find Lake's book, we will put a link in the show notes, and we'll also put it in our stories and stuff as we put the episode up so that you guys can find it.
I'm going to buy it for both my schools.
Same. I'm going to do the same thing.
Let's start a movement. Everyone buy it and give it to your schools, and let's do this.
I know.
Yes.
I know. I think it's important, certainly for educators.
Yeah,
absolutely.
For sure. It's such a beautiful book.
Thank you guys so much. The support means a lot, and this is good community, good camaraderie. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show and for sharing everything about your book. And do you have an Instagram or website or anywhere that people can find you?
At Lake Bell. At Lake Bell on Instagram.
Perfect.
You. Best name ever.
Best name ever. Okay, so check out Lake at Lake Bell, and then I'm sure you can find all the things about this amazing book there. And thank you so much for coming on the show. We're so happy to have you. And we celebrate Nova and her story, and that you guys are putting this out into the world for all of us
to a beautiful thing.
Be a part of. Yeah, we really love it. So
thank you, ladies.
And yes, and you guys can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Bye, Daisy.
Woo, woo.